Right. Francisco, why are you out there? Closer to your girlfriend.
That is a sweet device, incidentally.
I use it for everything.
Are you ready to go? We assign you things.
Yeah, I know that.
You didn't just assign you the whole thing.
What?
Yes. No, you can do a party.
It's a little better for you because you actually have glasses.
Would you like to do a party with my glasses?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go blind.
Oh, my eyes. Worth it, though.
Worth it.
Hashtag worth it.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to have a hashtag.
We do.
Oh, we do?
Someone put a hashtag on here for us. All right. Thanks, Jess. I mean, you can also read your water, but...
Okay, all right. Want to stand up? Or stand? I think you should stand. Let's stand and say hello, like we're ready to start it. Let's make a show of it. I don't know what to do now.
We didn't send a bunch of them.
Yeah, we've been live for a while.
Just stand here. One day they'll show up.
Right.
Hi, everybody! I don't know what to do now.
Stuff is going to happen. It's okay. So thank all of you so much for coming. It's a summer day, and there's so many fun things we can do. So thank you so much for coming here and spending it with us. We're reviving the IGDA NYC chapter. We have a lot of really fun and useful activities that we have planned, and we hope to share all of that with you and get your input today. So fun stuff first, the Wi-Fi. The network is Jointure, capital J, and the password is established 2014 with a capital E. It's on that handy, what do you do? If you're going to blow up your social media about this event, then please do. The hashtag is hashtag IGDA NYC or #IGDA NYC. So I know maybe half of you here or so, I know that this is a room full of passionate, talented, awesome game developers, and we want to support that. We want to help make it as easy as possible for you all to make awesome games and for game making to be sustainable and for game making to be a thing that happens in New York City. So I guess we'll start out with some introductions. Should I introduce myself first?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So my name's Chris Algu. I'm from the Brooklyn Gamery. We recently put out a mobile game called Prison Shell. I'm also involved in the creation of blackgamedevs.com, which is an awesome list of Black game developers from around the world. I've also run a number of game jams and game-based events, things with themes like motherhood or gender or multiplayer, and those are all pretty good times. And I'm excited to bring all of that to the IGDA.
Cool.
I'll
you're
go.
next.
Sure.
So those who don't know me, I'm Jess Haskins. I'm creative director of What Pumpkin Studios, which is a studio that we started here in New York last October. We are making the adventure game based on the Homestuck webcomic, if anybody's heard of that, which is lots of fun. Got a great team of people here. Other stuff I've done, I organized the NYC Indie Games group on Facebook. We run the monthly drink nights out in Brooklyn, in Greenpoint, which is lovely, except it's in Greenpoint. You guys should come anyway. You can take the ferry, which is much more fun than the G train. It's really nice. That's the first Thursday of every month. We do that. And I've also done some volunteer stuff for the IGDA here and there, helping out game design, SIG, moderation, and the crowdfunding group and stuff like that. But basically I am, my thing is like I want to bring communities of New York game developers together. And so things like drink nights and fun events and supporting people in what they're doing. And so, the chance to actually bring that together under the IGDA chapter was like the perfect thing. So I'm really excited to be doing that.
Okay. For those of you who don't know me, my name is James Seatall. I've been in the video games industry for the past 16 years, all here in New York. I got my start at Acclaim Entertainment as a tester and then was able to work my way up to project lead. Then when Acclaim unfortunately went under, I was able to go into the mobile space as a producer. I've worked on PC games, episodic games. Currently, I'm with What Pumpkin Studios as the director of production. Really excited about the arrival of the IGDA NYC, and really excited to be working in NYC in games.
Well, for those of you that do know me, hi, good to see you again. It's been quite some time. My name is Adam McPolin. For those of you that don't know me, I was quite prominent with nycgameindustry.com. Ran quite a few drink nights out in Brooklyn and Barcade. If you have never been to one, I'm sure you've heard of them. Not directly related to the games industry. I don't work in the games industry. I work in the technology sector. However, I am a passionate evangelist for the industry, so to speak. I want to see the community gathered and united rather than separated and divided. So I know there's a lot of faces here I do see that I do know, a lot of new faces that I want to get to know. So a lot of good stuff planned here for this board, and hopefully you guys will help us help you.
I am Athena Anderson. I am a kingmaker, not a king. I didn't want to be here. And actually, I'm going last because I'm going to segue into how we got here in the first place. Athena Anderson, I've worked at places like Neopets, Sony Online Entertainment, Blizzard Entertainment, Midway, a bunch of other places, Worldwide Biggie, Fungo Play, Nickelodeon, and a bunch of places. I've worked on probably half the games in GameStop. Yeah, about half. There's an entire shelf actually that's just all my games. I traveled back and forth between California and New York City for 5 times. And in that time between since I first got my start in Neopets in like 2000, this was like 15 years, so James has me on a year. I did a lot of testing, so I do quality assurance testing almost exclusively, and user experience testing and usability testing and stuff of that nature. When I was at Fungo Play and before that Worldwide Biggies, I also did what's the best way to describe this? I was sort of a provisional lead for the IGDA chapter here for about 2 years, from 2008 to 2010, before I moved out to California for Blizzard. So in that time period, I got to see a little bit of what IGDA does and what it's capable of doing, and I was able to find connections for rebooting the chapter, which leads into the next bullet point, which is how we rebooted the chapter in the first place and when elections are going to be held.
If you're on the bullet point, let's
Yeah, we should
take
say
a
Exactly. Now I will dance. Only I may dance. So
people on the feed can now see our faces.
no, I'll just go over here. It's cool. IGDA headquarters, which is Kate Edwards and Tristan Hightower and an advisory board full of people, they are basically in charge of the overall organization on a global level. And then the chapters themselves are actually individual sort of communities that are self-contained, not from a tax perspective, but from a like self-sufficient like events and organizations and game like company perspective. So each chapter is its own little thing, basically. The one in Orange County, the one in New Jersey, the ones out in Boston. Sometimes they take up an entire state, like New Jersey, or sometimes they're city-based, like there are many of them in California, for example. So the one here in New York City, when our previous chapter lead, who is Wade Tinney, was moving to Barcelona, we decided that we needed to find a way to like hold elections or do something with the chapter so that it doesn't fall into disarray like while he's gone. Because it takes like several months to get a chapter to go through elections. In fact, it takes 6 months to do so. So I talked to Tristan Hightower, and we had two options, which was to either reboot the chapter or try to hold elections. So I went around throughout the entire months of May and June talking to various people. Some of you I have talked to about the idea of running in elections so that we can like have a full board, right? And since there have never been elections in New York City outside of it being going from like not a chapter to an emerging chapter, so creation of a chapter, there's never actually been any elections. So nobody knew how to do it. Nobody knows how to hold an election for the IGDA here. So I went around talking to a lot of people, finding out who would be interested there, and it was a little mixed, right? Like the chapter didn't have enough activity for it to be something for people to want to be members of. And there were some people who wanted to run but didn't have the opportunity to, because if you want to run in an election, it takes 6 months from being a member to becoming eligible. And being a student member doesn't count, so I've learned. So I found that that was going to really hamper the election and democratic process. So I made the call to go ahead and reboot the chapter, taking it from an established chapter back to an emerging chapter, which means that we basically start the whole process of the IGDA over again from the very beginning. It's a little good and it's a little bad. There are some things we can't do anymore because we're no longer an established chapter, but there are other things that give us a lot of really good learning experiences out of it. So that's why, as you can see, there are 5 board members. There can be more, just in case anybody's like, no, what if I want to? I fully believe that if you want to help out and you want to have a say and you want to have a voice, you should totally have a voice, like even if you're not a member, personally. So elections are currently something we're working on holding within a year from now so that people can see the election process in the first place. And then from there, it's going to be a bi-yearly or biannual, whatever it means, every 2 years. So from there, every 2 years, if you want to run in the election, you can. Right now, unfortunately, you have to be a member, but as the chapter becomes established and maybe even empowered, it might be something where we'd be able to hold them without you being a member. I don't know quite yet. I want it to be as inclusive as possible. So how this chapter came to be is I talked to a lot of people, and some people volunteered. Adam volunteered. James came out of freaking nowhere, like literally. I don't know where he came from. He just showed up one day and was like, I know how to do stuff. I was like, that's great. I don't know how to do none of this shit. Jess is someone I personally approached because I know she has an incredible track record with the Parsons game group, with Parsons game group. Multiple times she has taken the reins of inactive or or even failing communities and able to make them into something great, where they're still existing to this day. So she's definitely a healer. Chris Algu is someone who I approached about being in the elections back when I thought we were going to be doing elections. And again, there's many people in this room that I approached about the elections, like half of you. Like no joke. I talked a lot. And Algu was also interested in running, but he wasn't a member yet of IGDA at the time. So when the idea for rebooting it happened, it was a very interesting situation where we were then able to reboot it, become members and then reboot the chapter, which allowed us to have a little bit more inclusivity into it. Because Algu, with his amazing, track record of his game jams, his events, he's easily one of the most recognizable and outspoken voices of the LGBTQ community ever. So I really wanted an across-the-board sweep of people that represented everyone in this room. And so I know that that's like 3 people from What Pumpkin, and I'm sorry that I didn't even work there at the time. I only got hired recently, I swear to Christ.
It was all part of the back door.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm trying to say. I really did not want that. I want it to be as absolutely transparent as possible. So if any of you have any questions about like why are 3 people from What Pumpkin on the board, please talk to me. And if you're interested in being on the board, if you want to be advisor, please talk to me. Yeah, so that's basically how the chapter came to be. It wasn't really anything nefarious, I promise. It was me trying to get as many people as active and into it as possible. So, and we're hoping, now segueing into the next part, spilling online too. What is this? You can't trust water around your face.
This is a very badly designed picture. The spout is like, oh,
keep away from me. So yeah, I was gonna segue into something that I totally forgot what it was. Sorry. It's because this guy came in. Nice bag, by the way. Yeah. So I want it to be as inclusive. I want every voice to matter. I want every game dev to be heard, and I want everyone to know that when it comes to the communities that have already sprung up, because of and in absence of the IGDA for the last 10 years, I totally want to be there for you, and I want the whole board to be there for you. So I don't want a case of thinking that we're going to be an authority, and I don't want a case of thinking that we're going to try and muscle you out or something. We want to support you, and that's all I've got to say. So I'm done.
So that'll segue into my piece, and one little segue from and to is if you're not a member of the IGDA, sign up, because that'll allow you things to vote, to help us become empowered over the future. I just want to talk really briefly about our social networks, our media outlets. If you're not connected, please come out from under your rock and get connected. We have a Facebook group. If you are really in tune to what we've been doing, we took the old one and converted it to a new one. There were some restrictions on being a closed group versus an open group and our number of members and all that good stuff. So you can check that one out. IGDA.org, our chapter site is up and running. You can check out our blog, you can check out our forums. It's very bare bones right now, so I apologize for that. But as we progress, there's going to be more content on there for you to absorb. Twitter.
Also for more people to participate and make
Absolutely.
there be more content, like join the forums, like ask questions, post resources, share stuff. That's
Absolutely.
all there waiting to be used.
Be engaged. We want to help you. Help us, help you, help us. However you want to look at it. That folds into Twitter as well. We are at IGDA NYC. Feel free to follow us if you like. Also have our own YouTube channel as well. Looking at a couple of other things that we're not ready to mention yet, but that's going to segue into a couple of pieces of what we'd like to accomplish. And that's, I want to pass the floor over to Jess now, so thank you.
All right. So yeah, we're just sort of getting started, sort of laying the groundwork, and we have kind of big plans about things we would like the chapter to do, areas we'd like to address, places we can get involved. We want to sort of run through some of the things we're thinking, and then get your input after if you're like, oh, that's a terrible idea, or you should be doing this instead, or I can help with that, or here's some ideas. Like, just save it all up for the end, and then we'll ask questions. But some of the things we are working on doing. as part of the rebooted chapter and an effort to make sure that the chapter is actually representative of game developers in New York. We are setting up an advisory board where we're drawing from leaders of companies and studios and communities and schools and groups of all kinds and individual developers and all kinds of people who represent our community who can actually advise us on things that the chapter should be tackling or help partner with us to put on events and initiatives. Because we're just, 5 people with full-time jobs and busy stuff. So just the 5 of us can't get stuff done, but we're looking for partners and volunteers. So we're in the process of sort of reaching out to people to form this advisory board, which will, make it more than just a small group of people. It's sort of like an open line for companies and groups to express their concerns and make sure IGDA is actually representing them. Another thing we would like to do is focus on offering career development resources, which is sort of one of the things that IGDA is meant to do and meant to help with, with career development, with skills, with job placement. That's something that as an organization we would really like to be able to offer because we want to support the game industry in New York. We want this to be a place where developers can come and there are opportunities and people can find jobs and there's enough studios you can move from one studio to another, which we're growing, we're getting there, but we've had some sad news lately. Of course, we just came off the wake of the Gameloft shutdown, which is a huge blow, like the largest development studio in New York. And there were the Kuma layoffs recently, and we hear these stories of studio closure after studio closure. So we want to be there when something like that happens and have the IGDA be a place where people can come and get resources, where they can find jobs, post opportunities. So one of the things, like I mentioned, we have the forums on the site, which we haven't set it up yet, but that might be a good gathering place. Just either as Gameloft, come and discuss board, or just a general job resources board. People can come post opportunities. We have, one of the things we actually have done is we're looking at pulling together some resource blog posts, here's some advice on brushing up your resume, or here's how to nail that interview, sort of resources for job seekers. And another resource we want to kind of put together is just opportunities for co-working spaces. There are, or were, again, here we're talking about places that we had and lost, we no longer have the Waka Waka space and other game-focused spaces, but there's the baby castles, residency thing, and there are groups of just indie devs that are kind of searching, well, are there other indie devs that I can meet up with and co-work with? So we want to kind of bring that together. And one of the initiatives we have is to offer or partner with groups to offer discounts to ex-Gameloft, ex-Kuma people who have been a victim of a layoff. And so this co-working space here where we have our What Pumpkin offices, Jointure, we've managed to partner with them to offer a discount to recent Gameloft Kuma employees. So you can, there's cards here and cards outside. We can give you the details on that, but basically if you're interested, they have day desk spaces and so it's just something to kind of help cushion the blow. And we're looking for other partners to kind of extend this deal. So if anybody has or knows of, works with a co-working space that might be interested in participating, we're definitely looking for that. So yeah, I think that goes into your next point.
Right. So I've had firsthand experience, and I'm sure a lot of you here have, and those watching, with layoffs and shutdowns here in New York. With that in mind, we are looking to pull together an event to help with those affected with the Kuma layoffs, those affected with the Gameloft shutdown, and anyone else that might have experienced, things of that nature. Basically, right now we're dubbing it a jobs fair / mixer. It's a horrible title. We'll find something else to call it. But I'm happy to announce that we've got participation through recruitment resources already with AKQA, Yahoo, and the Walt Disney Company. We're also in talks with other local companies to participate in the event. The event really is a means to brush up your resume, get advice on it, have someone take a look at your portfolio, talk to a recruiter, have mock interviews because you're rusty the first time you have an interview. And also just to socialize with your fellow game devs. We're also looking for sponsors and local companies to participate, as well as people to volunteer to help with this process.
And a venue.
And a venue.
That seats more than 70.
Yeah, as you can see, this is a great area, but we're expecting more to come. So we're looking for a larger venue, but we're hoping to pull that together real soon.
Talk about the roundtable?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about the roundtable. So one of the programs that we want to get going is a series of roundtable discussions. And if you haven't been to one of those, it's pretty rad. You basically take a lot of chairs, you put them in a circle, or I guess there's a roundtable involved. Maybe it's a King Arthur thing. I don't know really. But you all get together and you all talk about a specific item. The first one that we want to plan is for Unity. I know that a lot of you work with Unity. It's great. And and so
that's the title of the roundtable. Unity, it's great.
And you'll all just be able to come and talk about your experiences with it, issues you've had, ways you found around those issues. If anyone needs a Unity programmer, that'd be a great place to go. If you are a Unity programmer, it's a great place to go and just share knowledge and learn from your fellow developers. So we're excited to get that going in addition to several other roundtables. If there are other subjects that you'd like to see roundtabled, please let us know in the Q&A portion or via any of our social medias.
Our next topic. We also are currently looking into getting a website. So there are some other chapters out there that have really cool websites, like Orange County has igdanyc.org, which is really neat. And I don't know if any of you know, how many of you, show of hands, know Matt Albrecht? Cool guy, right? Am I right? We'd like to do something, hopefully with him. He seems pretty cool about it. I know he's probably like, you blew the lid, but I really like him, so there. We're really hoping to get a calendar of events going that is something that's really organic and natural and isn't just IGDA events and isn't just like, game company events. We want a calendar that people can go to, that anyone can put their events on. So, Game Center, Parsons, Long Island University, Sheep's Meow, anything from Brooklyn Gamery. We want anything that you're doing to be on this calendar. And we want everyone to be able to go there and see it. Because it always sucks when you're like, I'm going to make this event, and then it totally is on the same day as somebody else's event. that's always the best. But, also just so that people know where to go and what to do, because sometimes you're not always on Facebook, or sometimes you're not always like on a mailing list or something, right? So having something that's like that is community oriented and organic and natural and everyone can participate in, I think would be really great. So we're looking into getting something like that implemented into a website that we're currently in talks with having developed.
Oh, is it my turn again?
It's your turn.
All right. Show of hands, who here has heard of the New York State Digital Game Development and Incentives Act? Awesome. For those of you who haven't, it's this cool act that's on the floor right now. They haven't voted yes or no yet. It's here for New York State. Basically, it's an act to bring I swore you wouldn't do it, man. I knew you'd tickle me some way. It's an act that kind of lists a lot of incentives to work in the games industry here in New York State. For starters, there's going to be a tax credit if you are an anchor company with incubators that are underneath this act, they are looking for a 12-member advisory board of executives, professionals, education entrepreneurs, anyone in the industry with 5 years experience or above, to have this advisory, much like we're looking for an advisor, or they're looking for an advisory board for this bill. They are hoping to host a New York State Digital Game Summit and regional events that span from competitions. These competitions will have, the first competition has 10 winners with a revenue of $10,000 for prize money. Second competition, 10 winners with $100,000 prize money. And then the final competition with $500,000 in prize money. The rules of these competitions aren't set, but this is, again, another way to incentivize you to work in the state as a New York game dev. They're looking to create at least 11 game clusters in startup zones all throughout the city. Again, they are looking for a range of tax credit based on the size of your company. If the bill passes, it would take effect January 1st in 2015. I would personally, the IGDA NYC chapter is going to reach out to the senator who is sponsoring this bill. That's Senator Martin Golden. And I would reach out to you guys and say, write his office, see what you can do to help get this bill passed, because it would be a huge win for the New York State game devs.
Cool. So those are just some of the kind of like highlights of things we want to tackle soon. There are many more things that we can and would like to do. Some areas we'd like to get involved with is game education, youth program, teaching junior high kids to code, make games, supporting all of the game devs in New York, individuals, indies, small studios, big companies, and like, Athena was mentioning the communities that have grown up and are already here doing things. People who are running events and, playtesting groups and, gaming groups and game maker communities, all of that stuff. We want to sort of be, not take over, but, be there for the community and be a place where kind of everything can come together and where people can get connected and find out about stuff and find out about what's going on. So there's so many groups and they're all kind of scattered and don't always talk to each other and don't know what's going on and don't know what's out there. So we'd like to bring them together and support them in any way that we can. In just a minute, we're going to open it up to Q&A and more than just questions, like ideas, comments, like offers to help. What do you think we should be doing, and how can you help us do it? How can we help back and forth, all that whole thing. And beyond that, there are kind of two other sort of broader goals that we would like the chapter to, maybe not right away, but eventually represent. One is with something like this bill that James mentioned, and other things that we can do, sort of be the voice of game development in New York, speaking to the broader New York community, sort of like outreach for sort of like games as, as a medium and as an industry and as a practice. That whole like, the game industry has this kind of like strange sort of image problem, and it's just like, oh, it's just those gamers or, whatever like weird and, warped views people have. We want to, we want to have like making games in New York something that, people are proud of and that, means something when you say it. And then sort of the flip side of that is representing the New York games industry to the wider games industry, so that people know that this is a place where they can come and where there are great studios making great games, where there's great communities, that this is a place that's happening, and sort of be the voice of the New York game industry to the industry at large. So that's us, that's our spiel, that's what's going on in our heads. So yeah, let's open it up to Q&A. Yeah.
Oh, and also, those of you who are viewing online, if you go to the left of your screen, click the Q&A widget, and you'll be able to ask questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer.
Yeah. You do that one.
No, I got it.
James is going.
First question.
One thing that I've seen in animation communities like Asifa that I really like to see in the New York game industry is some sort of up-to-date list of studios, like maybe a wiki about the different studios, because I've been in a situation where there'll be a fairly good-sized studio, like 15 people or something, and people just won't know that it exists. They won't know to apply to it.
You mean like us?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, it's like we're good.
Who is she talking about here?
But like, you know, but other studios as well. It would be really nice to have like a constantly updated list so we know like what the companies are in.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important features of the website that we'd like to create, that, you know, the IGDA NYC website would be the place where you go like, hey, like I'm interested in games, I'm looking for a job in New York, what is there? And we just have like, you know, list of all the companies that is kept updated, and preferably like even a jobs listing, like who's hiring. Yeah, it's definitely something we would love to do.
Also, co-working spaces. The Productive is an animation co-working space that I think would be really good.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Cool.
give me the details and reach out to them.
Do you want to have people come up here because of the hands, or I can just take hands?
You just take hands.
I wanted to just tell you, James, I could actually help you out with the jobs fair sponsors and try to talk to some people about venues as well. So if you need that, just let me know.
Fantastic. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
talk after.
Yeah.
So something that's been an issue in the New York games industry for a long time, especially right now, recruiting in New York is very, very slapdash. I noticed there's a lot of small studios, they try to reach out and they can't really find anyone. And then there's people who've been working here for a long time. Like I had former colleagues at Gameloft who literally thought Gameloft was the only game company in the city. And if you go look at like Monster.com or even like Craigslist, there's all these like, oh yeah, like greater New York area like jobs, and a lot of them are very tangentially game related. So I feel like if there could be some sort of centralization effort, some attempt to like reach out to recruiters and be like, hey, if you have a company, like list your jobs here, like somewhere on the website. I think that would be immensely helpful to a lot of people.
Can I piggyback on that? So like that's spot on, and I'm coming from the other side of trying to hire people, and it's sometimes really hard because there's a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So it'd
What's
be
your
really great
name?
if, like, sorry.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Corey. So I work with companies like Autodesk and other companies. And so one thing that'd be really great is when there's an unfortunate event like the Gameloft layoffs, which totally sucks. It would be nice if we could just get together really fast and really simply, like just say, guys, we're meeting at this bar at this time. That's it. Like no one's gonna go there and hire someone at a job fair on the spot. It's really just you want to meet who's out there and make a connection and see a face and then give them your card and then chat later, right? So like just something as simple as an email that goes out or a tweet or whatever that says, hey guys, meet here. The Gameloft studio just had a layoff. Let's help them out. For hiring people, that would be amazing. And just like really, really, really simple stuff like that would be really helpful because New York has done a good job in a lot of ways with helping recruiters and helping people connect, but sometimes it's been sticky, like you have to sponsor the chapter, to send an email to the chapter, or you have to, stuff. So I think that the more streamlined we can make that, the better.
Lots of nodding heads, yes. Sorry.
Got questions? I saw you.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
And say your name. Stand up, say your name.
Oh, no,
Hey, you gotta stand up. Kevin didn't
That's
stand
the
up
price
the
of raising
entire
your
time I
hand.
was gonna go over there and make Kevin stand up. You gotta project your voice. There's so many people in the back.
Chris. With something like Gameloft happening, like 100 people looking for jobs in New York, where there's not that many jobs available. And I think it's helpful to maybe provide an understanding of what other jobs are available out there for them, because there are a huge amount of tech companies here.
Right.
And just for the purposes of being able to land on the feet, the verbiage is different in other industries. But for instance, if you're in free to play and you're a back-end developer working on monetization and whatnot, there are plenty of jobs out there that need .NET developers. And I think that's helpful, So if relocation isn't a possibility for you, understanding that. And then I had another question actually. So I feel like I'm not entirely sure or clear exactly how beneficial it is to be focused on being a part of like the IGDA when you guys in your effort right now seems to be highly functioning without even being an established chapter.
Well, I can address the first question, and then we'll address the second one. With the first one, I've reached out to a lot of recruiting companies that aren't just game companies. You know, if you're a Java developer, you use Java work, there's that, Python, etc. And I know that with Yahoo and the Walt Disney Company, they are looking for all rays, like not just tech mostly, but not just game. So I'm hoping to get a lot more of that in terms of participation for the event coming up.
And I guess, answer the second one. So how much do you know about the different types of chapters?
Well, in my experience, when I was first getting in the games industry, I paid $100 to IGDA in New York, and there was nothing here. And so what ended up happening was through meetup.com and General Assembly's bid, slowly kind of joined the game industry. And the ideas that you guys are putting forth without being established chapters seem relative to exactly what we need to be doing. So unless you guys are gaining funding by being part of the IGDA, or there's some legal addition that you get for being part of the IGDA, I don't see a huge benefit focusing on that point.
Okay, so basically, before we rebooted the chapter, it was established, and there's emerging chapter, established chapter, and empowered chapter, and that's usually just for tax purposes. An established chapter has a little bit more freedom in what they can do. Empowered chapters get their own tax, their own bank accounts. They all sorts of individual, highly customized and individualized stuff. We are not considered an emerging chapter, but because we were rebooted, it's a little bit different than if we were a brand new emerging chapter. So it's more of like a probation period rather than it being like a new chapter. So what we do get is we still get the IGDA page that's on the organization's website, so that people that are outside of the city can still see us and contact us. And that was like a big thing that Jess was saying, is that one of the secretly important aspects of having it, because I agree that there's so much stuff going on here. It's almost like, why even have us? It's like, what's the point? But if you live in another state or another country, because IGDA is a global thing, you might go to the IGDA website first because you may not know about playcrafting, or you may not know about General Assembly, or you may not know about Code Liberation, or Sheep's Meow, or NYU Game Center, or you may not know about any of this stuff. So the first thing you're probably going to do is go to the website, and we definitely have the privilege and access to be able to post everything that happens here there. So it's more of like a megaphone right now, out, like sort of broadcasting out what the community and what the city is doing and what the developers are doing out to a wider audience.
Yeah, sorry, my concern isn't really about like your ability. Actually, I think what you guys are doing is great. It's not even a question about you guys as a group. It's more a question, does it impact the flexibility you guys have to achieve your goals until you are established?
It actually doesn't. Okay. Yeah, because of, to make a very long story short, there's some tax stuff involved with the IGDA headquarters. So all of the chapters are currently kind of the same. And to make a very long story very short. But no, we aren't, now that you've clarified that, we aren't actually, we shouldn't be stymied by anything that a normal emerging chapter would be. So in terms of like what we're able to do as a chapter versus an established chapter, it should basically be the same thing.
Yeah, and what being like an IGDA chapter rather than just like, hey, we're a new startup, we're the board for the betterment of New York game developers or whatever. By being an IGDA chapter, it does give us that connection to and outreach to other members of the IGDA or people connected to the IGDA. You know, it gives us the website and the group, and it gives us access to things like the IGDA Foundation, which like, you know, provides grants for, you know, whatever you may need as a chapter, and, you know, just the organizational support, the name recognition.
Normally, emerging chapters don't get access to certain things because they're emerging when they first come out. If like you were to make a chapter for like Long Island or something, right? It would normally, since it's a brand new chapter, be treated a little differently. So fundraising might be different, sponsorships might be different, stuff like how like your email, how you get filtered at like through headquarters to like talk to like who you need to talk to, how taxes work, convention stuff, all of that would under normal circumstances be different, but because of, again, the too long didn't read story regarding the headquarters, currently all the chapters are theoretically the same. So we shouldn't be impacted at all by the fact that we've rebooted and we're emerging and unestablished.
And just to clarify, from the perspective of, you know, a member, you know, like Athena said in the beginning, we're aiming to be as inclusive as possible. You know, we're not checking IGDA membership cards at the door. Like, we're not like limiting our benefits. Like, we are trying to, you know, help all of the New York game industry and be as inclusive as possible.
Yeah.
The only reason we bring up membership and, you know, like urge you like, hey, like, you know, maybe consider joining, is because it does give you access to things like joining the group, and like things like voting. Like, if you're like, hey, those guys are doing a terrible job, like I want to, you know, vote somebody else in. Like, it gives you the say for that. If you're, you know, if we're doing good things and kind of humming along and you're like, yeah, that's great, then, you know, you can just sort of like enjoy the rising tide with everyone.
Yeah, it's actually part of the reasons why I didn't want to hold elections right away, because there were so many people that either had who didn't have memberships anymore because they were like, there's nothing going on, or they didn't have memberships in the first place because they didn't even freaking know about the IGDA. So like I personally like want to be as inclusive as possible. So if you're like, nah man, fuck you guys, I don't want to pay my money, that's fine with me. I don't care. I don't care. You might miss a Christmas party 2 Christmases from now when we finally have a member-only Christmas party, but definitely for the first year. So does that answer? I hope.
No,
Okay. Hey,
Oh, yeah, hi.
I saw you. But I saw you after him.
Can I answer this question?
Okay.
So I just wanted to throw one.
Corey's like, I just come up here.
So like, I'm a big IGDA cheerleader, and honestly, the reason I pay money to IGDA, I'm a lifetime member. I don't get anything from that, right? The reason you pay for membership is because the organization is supporting the industry that you're a part of, right? One of the reasons why this industry is so good is the IGDA is fighting censorship. The IGDA is fighting, you know, bad work practices, right? And on a local level, I don't know, I mean, if you get involved in the local chapter, it pays out, right? I got, I don't know, 3 of the 7 jobs I've ever had directly through the IGDA, right? So it's a great organization. If you support it, it will support you. And if you're asking, oh, what do I get for this dollar? You're probably asking the wrong question with this organization, right? From your perspective, from the board's perspective, the value in terms of dollars and cents comes from the gravitas of IGDA. It's not this group or that group. You know, you guys said there's like 20 groups in the city, right? There's only one IGDA. The reason I'm here tonight, I saw IGDA New York Reboot. I'm in for that. I'm not really in for anything else. And I know there's a lot of people who wanted to come tonight because of that reason. There's a reason why we sold out in like 2 hours or something like that, right? Because this is the IGDA. It's a big deal. We have a great group running. So I think there's a lot to love about IGDA. So I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to jump in before you did it.
I promise, it's your turn, please. Please.
I'm Sandy, and I just want to state that last month I asked some NYU students to take over a list I had, which was Wednesday lunch in New York City. I met James through that, I met Jess through that. I think I met Chris some other way. But there's about 300 people on that, game developers on that invite list, and it's basically every week somebody sets up a date to meet for lunch, and it's a good way to meet people in the industry. So, but if they don't manage to figure it out who's actually going to handle it, I'm going to need a co-owner to help me out with that.
Cool. We actually have an online question.
Nice.
Ooh, like a real show here. This one's from Jacob. What are you planning to do to help Indigenous people from NYC area become more involved with game design? Will there be any reaching out to include First Nations people or representation of any kind?
It's a solid question. I'm gonna throw that one to you.
Yeah, I guess I'm the
That's your
person
forte.
It's true, I'm the guy. Yeah, I've actually had a lot of communication with members of that community. Ashley, Elizabeth Loponce, Emmanuel Marcano, all these really great people. And I've definitely got a chance to know them, and they're awesome. And we would definitely be interested in running events to sort of introduce people to the broader game development community, create events to help people create games, and all of the broader outreach and education themes that Jess mentioned earlier. I hope that answers your question.
Just contact us. We'd love to do things.
Yeah. If anybody has any ideas
For real, come on over.
Yeah.
Email us.
Any ideas for stuff like that? Something
Yeah.
you want to put on? Something you want to see? Like, we're here to help.
Yeah.
Yeah, this really is something that we would love to explore.
Yeah. So I think the answer is, what would you like us to do? Because we'll totally do it.
Yeah.
We're down. Anybody? Oh, the well-dressed man in the back. Please state your name.
Hey, Anthony. I think you should counter Corey's point a little bit with the IGDA.
Everything self-displays their time to go.
I think it's all well and good that we want to, have this idea that the reason we're going to buy into a system is because it gives us benefits in the end. And I think that's great for everybody in this room, but I don't think that really speaks to people outside of this room. I think there's something that is inherently exclusive about that. And I think one of the things we can be doing better, and this relates to job opportunities and people communicating with each other, is really bridging the gap. This isn't just in New York City, but we've got a gap between indie developers and established studios, just like we have few established studios here. We don't know who's doing what's where, and I think people coming on board for the first time, not just out of the country, but young people who want to break into this industry, just have no idea how to break in this industry.
Yeah.
And the first thing I saw, kind of breaking in and growing up into this industry was seeing IGDA, that sounds legit, $100 membership, all right, maybe, didn't see the merits of that. And why would you buy into a system that you don't see the results from? Right now, the history of New York City is not giving results. So I think the first thing you've got to do is start proving that there's some sort of benefits, not to just individuals, but to the community. We haven't developed that reputation yet. So that there's kind of I think what would be great for the IGD to start doing is really bridging the gap between what I see are three fractions: the established in, sort of in the AAA or, kind of what we're doing in sort of, funded communities, the independent developers, and people who are trying to break in. And I think once those people are communicating a lot more often, then we don't have to have these sort of, as Corey pitched, this sort of idea that once a studio closes down, we're gonna have a little, get together right after. We'll all have already been communicating with each other. So I think what would be really helpful is building our reputation as a hub for this communication. I'm sure you've already talked about this throughout, as I sort of just staggered in last minute.
Where am I?
Yeah. Maybe I just like to sound my own voice and I feel like arguing with you a bit, but could we argue that? But I think that before we can say people are going to buy into something because it's beneficial, I think that's great for us who have kind of seen the benefits of this industry and the not so benefits of this industry, and really need to know what the IGDA is doing for the industry, other than scantily clad women at parties.
Nobody goes to Yankees and wires their legs 4 years long.
Yeah, I know.
Well, I mean, I totally see the gaps that you see. We want to do our best to bridge those gaps. That's one of our goals. And to be completely honest, like I want us to just unify, and I want us to prove ourselves to you, in that respect. I want you guys to join the IGDA because you want to, not because it's some sort of thing that you have to do. And I feel like with the events that are coming up, with the things that we're doing, we hope to earn that trust and and that want. Yes, Ed?
Sorry, Bob. No, and when you use the word us, I think us started to sound like us and you. And I think what would be really awesome, because we had that already in the IGDA. There was sort of the haves and the have-nots, and the haves are really small in the New York IGDA. I think us needs to start becoming us.
Oh, when I said us, I mean everyone in this room, everyone online.
You did too,
Yeah.
and I wanted to clarify.
Thank you, man.
You're welcome.
We have another. Oh, does anyone else?
Yeah, I was just looking. I was scanning.
Okay. We have another online question. This one's from. Sorry to lean into the camera. This one's from Kirk. Can we have a focus on resources for developers specifically by borough? Many of the opportunities are highlighted in Brooklyn/Manhattan, but projects, venues, devs in Queens, Bronx would help! Exclamation point.
What about the forgotten borough of Staten Island?
Yeah, forgotten borough of Staten Island.
He didn't even say Staten Island. That's how forgotten it is. He's like, what? I thought we had 4.
Yeah, I've actually been in like quite a few conversations with just friends of mine, trying to like see you, Arthur, but but yeah, there are so many game development communities and game developers out there, and they are all kind of separated and apart. Certain events that I go to, like events at the Game Center, it's like, oh, hey, what's up? I know everyone. And then certain events at other places, I'm like, oh, I don't know anyone here. I thought I knew the entire NYC game dev scene. And so there's a lot of game developers and a lot of people out here. And I think that something we would definitely like to do, and hopefully something that as the IGDA NYC we can do, is to sort of spread these resources and spread some connection between the various boroughs and all the different wonderful parts of New York City.
I actually really like that question because it brings up the venue thing, right? Like if we can find venues in Queens and in Staten Island and in Bronx, we'll totally do it.
Yeah. One thing that occurs to me is I don't know, what's going on in the Bronx. I don't know what, groups or events or anything there may be out there. As, we sort of like grow this chapter and like kind of grow our outreach and, people tell people about it and you hear about events, like also hopefully people who are doing things out there can find and come to us. So that we can kind of like be the nexus, because we can like make an effort and go looking for those things. Certainly we'll do that, but hopefully also people will hear about us and kind of like attach to the octopus. that was a bad metaphor. Forget it.
Anyways, I like that question, Guy. That was a good question.
Yeah.
Or I mean, Kirk could be a girl name.
I know. Yeah, I would also just like to say that the initial question and answer then followed up to say Staten Island, my bad.
Yeah.
It's okay. I actually, the first place I lived in New York City was Staten Island, so I remember Staten Island. and that missing the ferry at 12 a.m. Yeah. So we had 2. We have Anthony in the back. Fuck you. Anthony, we were not agree with you completely. Just shut up. Look at you next, Anthony. All right, stand. Stand, sir, stand. Your name.
Hello, I'm Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Hi, Bob. Hey.
I was just curious, the 2 questions. Are there plans to have regular meetings? And then secondly, we're asking for people to volunteer. There was the career fair is an opportunity. There's also just posting different resources. Do you have any other ideas of how people can volunteer right now, or are you just kind of waiting for that to organically develop?
To answer your first question, we're currently discussing having quarterly town halls, just so we can make sure to have this feedback loop between all of us and make sure that all the ideas are flowing and whatnot. We also want to make our roundtables a series as well, and we hope to be able to provide some good, interesting, regular events through that.
And the other question about volunteering, basically anything that we mentioned doing, we need people to help us do. So that can be in a variety of capacities. But yeah, with the career fair event itself, we are specifically looking for people who can help with venue, who can help with maybe sponsorship of that event. And on an individual level, other than looking for recruiters, we're looking for people who might volunteer their time as, you know, to like do portfolio reviews, mock interviews, stuff like that. You know, especially like for particular disciplines. So if someone's like, hey, I can like review art portfolios, or, you know, hey, I can do mock like programming interviews. That's something we definitely need volunteers for.
Yeah. On top of that, I did talk to like half this room when I was like, who wants to run? And then like, oh, nobody wants, like 2 people want to run. Oh, I guess it's time to reboot. Who wants to reboot? Whoa. So if you feel like you totally want to be on this board, you just hit me up, man. For real. If you all stand up so everyone can hear me. If you are a community leader or a company leader or, you know, director of a school, you know, something cool like that, and you want to not only help make your voice heard, be a part of the process, let us know. I like how they're like, who, which one are you talking to? If you're an indie dev of one, a director of one, if you're a director of many, and a creative director of many, or, you know, if you just really want to be involved, and, you know, like it even doesn't matter. Like, you don't even have to be in the industry, quite frankly. I don't give a fuck. We personally give a lot of time to this. Like, we put hours of our, like, I put at least 8 hours to 8 to 16 hours a week into the IGDA, and let me tell you, my entire month of May and June were gone, like, doing this stuff. So, like, if you've got 8 to 16 hours to spare a week, come on up. I can't pay you, but you can sure help the hell out.
You make it very appealing.
Yeah, come on up.
No health benefits.
Yeah, no health benefits. Exposure. Yeah. But yeah, you know what? If you feel passionate about it, as we do, then yeah, please. Like, if you want to volunteer, if you want to help out, if you feel that like, oh, Athena didn't talk to me and I didn't know her beforehand, I totally wanted to be on this board. You know, talk to one of us afterwards for sure.
My name's Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Melissa.
I wanted to follow up on the legal aspects of bringing tax breaks to New York, the bill that's on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in that. As far as I know, New York doesn't have any of these things, and they could bring in a lot of nice, new, possibly big business. I want to know what your efforts were to help that get through, and pretty much how I can help.
Well, honestly, our efforts will be in parallel. Like, we personally are going to reach out to Senator Golden's office and see if there's anything to provide. Unfortunately, we're not in the Senate, so we don't know specifically what a civilian can do to help.
I consider that fortunate.
Unfortunately, we're not in the Senate. But just literally writing his office and saying, like, I'm a game developer, I'm in the game dev community. How can I help get this bill passed?
What's the name of the bill?
The New York State game industry.
New York State Digital Game Development and
Thank you.
Incentive
Look at the wrong line.
I would love to.
And we'll post a link to the information for the act through social media, just so you guys are aware.
Great, because I would love to help kind of get letters written. I know, like, one of the biggest obstacles to that is like getting it printed out and getting someone to sign it and mail it out.
Right.
And follow up after.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a good thing that that we could do, just sort of as, you know, a post, an announcement, like, here's this thing, like, write your letters and
I like that.
Yeah, if everyone could totally research it, you'd find out it's super cool. Like we could talk about that act for like
hours,
3 hours easily, like, for reals. And,
and we may at some point at a meeting to go.
I covered like this much when I was talking.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot in there.
No, I'm excited to hear it.
No. Everyone knows who you are now. You can't hide.
So yeah, I just want to jump off that. So do we believe that this tax when it passes will be comparable to West Coast or whatever tax benefits? And then if not, you know, what are the plans to put something across that is? And then I guess there's a third part. You know, there's a lot of big money now in the city that wasn't here before. And it's maybe a little outside of games, but you have, you know, Amazon, you know, last 10 years we have, you know, Google, whatever, we have Nexus, and there's billions of dollars of money, you know. And when the tax benefits are comparable to the West Coast, that talent that comes over here is like, you know, no offense to anybody in this room, and I'm sure there's great people in this room, but it draws a lot of it. and it's beneficial outside of games to have that level of lucidity. So is there any effort, or can you guys see putting any effort into reaching out to those big players who probably have lobbyists already for a tech sector to push something, either that bill or something better?
That's a great question. I know that the tax breaks range anywhere from 15 to 25%. And there are obviously stipulations to those tax breaks, whether you are a part of their startup community or whether you're just an established company here in New York State. The whole point of the bill was seeing the potential of lots of, I mean, there are many institutions here that develop game developers through education. And then those people either stay here or they leave and go off into the West Coast. So it was a stopgap measure to kind of revitalize the economy here. And there's so many game developers here. If they stay in New York, we're successful, then that just boosts the economy here. So I think that was their goal, and I hope to be at that point or even better with this act.
Two questions. One could be kind of on the volunteer question, and if you guys already answered this, feel free to just tell me to shut up. But one of the things that I dealt with, or not dealt with, but prior to this was not knowing how to help, not just with events that are going on, and not just with things like, going to, trying to become a board member or whatnot, or elections, but like creating events and that sort of thing. And is there a process in place for people who want to create an event that's sponsored by the IGDA? You might have answered this already, so feel free to go on that. The second question is, are we limited in any way until we actually go through elections? Is there anything that is very different until those elections happen? Does it behoove of us in any way to expedite that process, or what that process, do we have a plan of what that process is going to be?
I'll answer
and
this.
When is a good time for us to have that election?
Yeah, I'll answer the second question first. The elections, having one versus not having one doesn't impact us in any way. It's similar to the whole established, emerging, established, empowered chapter thing. It's a too long didn't read headquarter thing. I can get into it later, but it really is a really long explanation that I'd be talking out my ass about, because I don't have the exact email that was sent to me by Tristan Hightower. So I guess if you want to know more, ask Tristan Hightower.
I guess the short of it is there's no particular reason for us to rush that process.
Unless you all hate us.
Yeah, unless you all hate us. In which case it's fine. Please. We already plan to have it within 1 year's time, which gives 6 months for people that want to run to become members. Again, in a perfect world, I would like it that you don't even have to be a member to run, but that's beyond my control right now. And I don't know if empowered chapters down the line are able to or allowed to fit those rules. That's not something I'm going to speculate on. So for now, let's just go with what we know, which is that if you want to run in elections, which we will be holding in 1 year's time, because that gives us enough time to establish the chapter so that enough people want to run in the elections, and then if you're not a member, it gives you time to become a member so that you meet that 6 month waiting period. And then from then, having the elections is also really just like an educational thing. Like, nobody here has ever seen it happen, so wouldn't that be really cool, right? I know I'd like to know how the hell it works. So that's, I hope, answers the second question first. The first question second, which was that if I know one of the things that you want to do is about education for children, and I'm totally on board with that. Our issue.
It's about me.
It's about you and me. It's a very good question, and it's a question we can't answer yet because we're still working out how sponsorships and fundraising even works, because it has been a very long time since anyone has done it. And it has to go through headquarters, because again, too long didn't read everything that we do. We can't own a bank account. We can't have this for tax purposes. All of the stuff has to go through IGDA headquarters, and then we get the funds from that. I'm not even sure how it works, quite frankly, yet, because I haven't done it. Second, Clark, besides, Cat Small, put her hand up first. Fuck you. Baby, I saw you. I'm here for you, bro. But yeah, so regarding if someone wants to do an event, with the IGDA, that's one of those just approach us and say, hey, I want to do this event. one of those things, right? Like, oh, I want to do this. And then regarding fundraising, I can't answer that question yet, unfortunately, because we have to do it first to know how it works. And then once we do, we will make it very transparent how you can become involved if you have an event you want to run through the IGDA and how we can help you do that. But for now, it's a little up in the air. Sorry, Anthony. Does that answer your question?
Not really.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Kat, and then Corey.
Hi, Kat. So my question was regarding, it's not really about education per se, but basically I've gone to like community colleges and talked about game development because they actually have some classes happening, which is really cool. So I was wondering if there were, if y'all in the future would ever consider like going to public schools around your city, even at the college level, and actually just tell people that IGDA exists because they really don't know that anything.
You should talk to that guy.
So yeah, just fun.
Yeah, he's cool. I give him my vote of approval. Yeah, and you know me, I love education. I love this shit. I'm totally about it, and you know that better than anybody. Why are you on this fucking board? I tried! Corey!
So, there's actually an answer to that question. Before you get, so I ran the Jersey chapter and I sat on the board and I was on the program and memberships committee. So I dealt with way more of this than I really ever wanted to. So what you do before you're a chapter is you do zero-sum sponsorships, which is where what you're talking about is, you know, Atari comes in and says, here's a fat check, and then you run it through corporate, and then you get some money back because stuff.
Yeah, right. Yeah, magic.
The zero sum is simply you go to Atari and say, hey, we'd like to sponsor an event. You know, this is the venue we're thinking, this is the stuff we're thinking, and you let them pay for it directly. Not everybody's accounts payable can do that. Some people, you know, it depends on every corporation, but a lot of them can. They just have an expense account where you can just, where like it's a drop in the bucket. So I would say in the early days, you can look at some of the bigger companies, and it's really simple for them. Like maybe if you're Autodesk, you know, like I just go in and I swipe my card, and then I shoot an expense report over my office. Like it can be that simple in the early days, but obviously there's a lot of reasons to do it the other way.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would really encourage you guys to look at is the insurance policy for the forming versus formal chapters. Just because if you're not a chapter and you host a meeting, and someone, say, gets drunk and slices their hand off, like, you guys could be on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Don't give people ideas. Jesus.
No, but I mean, I think you're covered by the IGDA's insurance policy with the top 2 tiers. I don't know about the chapter.
Yeah. From what I know, all the freaking versions are the same now because of something.
Well, that's great.
You just gotta ask Tristan, man. I seriously don't want to paraphrase it because I have an email that explains it, but like what am I do? Read the email to you people? And just what I might actually do, since this is a question that not a lot of people know, and even I'm not too versed in because I'm not like a financial person, is I might get like an official response that we can post on the Facebook or on the group that explains how money works because it's apparently changed in the last like year or two, which is what makes it, I don't know. Yeah, exactly, right. No. So it's all, so any question regarding money is just, that's the answer.
We're coming up on 9, so we got about
we had 2 more
5-10 minutes.
We had 2 more hands.
Hi, my name is Raul.
Hi, Raul. We're all a friendly bunch here. Come on, guys.
So, how old is IGA? Is it fairly new or?
I mean, I think we're like a month old.
The thing is I've been working in New York City in the gaming industry for 7 years.
And you don't know jack shit, right? Oh yeah.
I think the problem with that though is now that I'm currently unemployed, saying out loud is weird.
No, it's not.
Now that I'm currently unemployed,
you are among friends here.
Like I would pay, I don't know if you want to monetize your site or whatever, but I would pay $100 if I knew that you had connections of delivering like some kind of professional resume or something. Like if I knew, like I don't know, like Rovio or Glue or something had a direct impact with this association, then I would totally join it. That's one thing. Second thing is, I don't know if you guys ever went to Gameloft and said, hey, office manager, here's like our cards or something, or ever went into like EA and be like, here's, hey Google, here's our cards and things like that, here's the event we're holding. I think that'd be really important for people just to know about it, even people who have jobs, because eventually they might not have jobs. And I actually heard about this from a programmer, from one of our programmers, and he's like, hey, we're gonna drink beers, come. I said, okay, but I had no idea that it was like directed towards an event. And I think that's something that's lost very easy. And I think that's something that should be found much easier. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And I know that's why a lot of people might be here for the first time for like, me. We were at an event earlier, just socializing, networking, and coming here, and we thought it would be socializing and networking as well, but it seems more of like an informative kind of discussion about who you are and what you do.
We're having a drink night afterwards, so it's
Look at that. Socialism networking part starts in
Kevin?
about 15 minutes.
It's really great, and I just wish that I would have known about this like sooner, not just when you're unemployed. It shouldn't be about that.
Right.
Right.
No, I agree.
So that's my word.
I had a hand over here though first. Sorry, Sandy.
Yeah, hi, I'm David. It's not a statement to me, it's not a question. So I think a lot of the comments here are sort of reflecting the fact that New York's been a no man's land in game development for the last 20 years. 20 years ago, I took my first job. I moved to the West Coast. It was the only place I could actually find a job. I was born and raised in New York City, came back 20 years later, and started a studio here. On the subject of tax credits, the tax credits are actually ubiquitous. It's not just a West Coast phenomenon. There's currently 26 out of 50 states that already offer a digital media tax credit for gaming. If you want to start a game studio, currently you're far better off moving to Connecticut or New Jersey. In Connecticut, you'll get a 30% tax credit. They'll also offer you a relocation loan. Same in New Jersey, you'll get a 20% tax credit. If you go to Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, the tax credits, even Nova Scotia, the tax credits actually range from about 37% to 50%. Tax credits in the United States range from 20 to 40% depending on the state. So the problem is that New York is surrounded by 2 states that currently offer aggressive tax incentives and loans for companies like ours. And the problem with New York is that it's consistently the holier than thou state. It's the general attitude of the city and the state is that it's a privilege to be here. Stop complaining about your 50% corporate tax rate. Stop complaining about your overheads. Just be proud that you're here. The problem is that argument that's been in place now hasn't worked for 20 years. Nothing has changed here in 20 years. What we typically see is an endless cycle of studios opening and studios closing. And then we tell each other the same stories over and over and over again. Their narrative never changes. So your role and the role of companies like Avalanche Studios is to change the psychology and perception of what is happening in the city that is really the greatest city on the planet. How do we change that, right? Because ultimately it's changing the psychology from a state that's about the financial services industry and large corporations to smaller studios that are actually employing people in the thousands over time versus the film and television industry that gets a 25% tax credit simply for shooting a film in the city that may have taken 2 weeks to shoot, right? You're talking about building industry over time. It's not the film and television industry. These are short-term projects that move, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, but ultimately are not about building long-term, stable, consistent growth centers for a new industry. So a lot has to change, but typically it's only going to happen when a company generates a project that really gets people to pay attention. Puts a game out on the shelves, puts a game in people's hands that sells millions of units. And suddenly people snap to attention and say, where did this game come from? Oh, it was developed right here in Manhattan. So that a lot has to change. There's many aspects to this conversation, but on the subject of tax credits, there's nothing special about tax credits. They're everywhere. And simply that New York consistently holds out for reasons that are fairly inexplicable. So there have been people that have been pushing for this for years. There have been efforts to push these credits forward for many, many years now. It's not something that's new. It's a conversation that's been going on for a very long time. And the conversation simply is thus. If you have a 25% film and television tax credit, what is stopping the city from simply broadening the definition of that tax credit to digital media? What is it that's stopping politicians, senators, Senator Golden, for example, from simply pulling the trigger. And ultimately, it has to come down to the fact that we don't have strong lobbyists. We don't have Hollywood's lobbyists to push these credits through. We have random voices. We have people that are passionate about what they do and what they believe. But we don't have some of the strong arm tactics, unfortunately, that larger industries or industries that simply have access to the political infrastructure can push through, with greater rapidity. And, it's unfortunately a sobering picture of what happens when you have disconnects between, the political structure and industry. But, hopefully we're now sort of turning a corner. It's just that a lot of things need to happen for New York to finally get on the map.
We also have a lot of issues with, just turning to a roundtable real quick, with competing industries like the tech industry, the fashion industry, Wall Street, are all, they pay very competitively. and so being in the game, industry here, paying your employees can get really difficult, because what's to stop you from just going to Google or to Wall Street or to like some hedge fund, right? Like, especially when like a block away, because everything here in New York City is super tight, right? It's not like California where it's like, I have to go to Palo Alto for this job. I'm fuck that, right? Like it's very different. It's like, oh, I need to take the 2 train to my job versus the 4 train to my job that pays twice as much but isn't doing exactly what I want to do. So New York City also has a lot of tough things that it has to crack. But I really liked hearing what you had to say.
Thank you.
We can take one more.
So I was in charge of the social committee of IGDA New York City until I got too busy. But I want to say that the biggest problem was the venue. I mean, we held the Christmas party at Gibson Guitar, and we did do events at Google, but always the problem is finding a venue that we can hold the events, and also finding, even just the funding to pay for the food or something. The Christmas party was this big event where they gave away guitars and guitars. If you remember this.
We gave away PlayStation 5 at one time. I know I gave it away.
But we were looking for the bars night. I went to several bars and tried to figure out, where could we make this deal? We can get free drinks and stuff like this. It takes a lot of effort to do that. But the biggest problem has always, and I just organized a panel for last month, and the problem still was venue.
Yeah, and not only that, but just more people, right? Like, I mean, there's 5 of us. You think that's a lot? That's not a lot of people. So what was your name? David Smart Guy. David Smart Guy. If you want to come up here, please be my guest. Please come up here to this table. You are welcome. Bob, come on up.
We're happy to sponsor a venue. It's simply a matter of timing.
Right.
A lot of our staff is just really, really busy at the moment.
Yeah. Are you with Avalanche?
Yeah. The next couple of months, as we finally deliver the project, we'll have a little bit more time on our hands. And we've been talking about hosting something, for example, with BAFTA. We have a lot of members of the British Academy of Film and Television Arts. Who's actually fairly active and is trying to establish a true video game award show in the US, similar to the British BAFTAs, which is probably the only really serious award show that we have for the gaming industry.
Right.
I think the BGA really counts.
Yeah, I know.
A little embarrassing to watch.
Yeah, a little embarrassing to work on them.
We're in a position to host something like that, and also to show the work that we do. We are planning to start a formal internship program next summer, which we haven't had time for until now. So we're working with NYU. Including Mr. Lance back here. And
one of the directors.
Yeah, so,
which one? Who knows?
We're happy to do that. We just haven't had time to do it.
Yeah.
It's something that we all feel very passionate about. It takes us to push things forward. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, and I feel that we should just be helping push you people forward because I can't, all of us together. I think we have a great team, but I also think that there are many gaps in we don't have an artist, we don't have music people to represent us, we don't have a lot of stuff, right? And I think that the more people who are passionate and the more people who have ideas and want to get together and help, or if they already have their own thing going on, we want to boost them. We want to do what we can for you guys because this is really all about you.
So yeah, I think we're gonna have to wrap up the Q&A because we're here till 9, but we will continue the conversation and head over to the White Horse on, what's the address? We got it.
Address is supposed to be on the whiteboard.
Anthony's buying.
Anthony's buying. Wait, Hudson Street. Is that the wrong address? I don't know.
Maybe everyone.
Oh, no.
Stop!